sticking to Pennsylvania, which our last episode was in, as well as a couple before that, with the owner and paranormal investigator, with the owner of Bump in the Night Society, Sean Bowman. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Had an absolutely amazing time in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It was what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
A little bit
How
longer
long?
than that. Yeah, it's been probably like a month or two.
Time flies. It
I
was
think
it,
it was
was- it was September,
September.
right? It was like late
Yeah,
September.
yeah.
Whenever it was a blast. I loved it. I miss Johnstown a lot. Um, our good friend, Sean Stifler from the Johnstown Temple, actually sent me some pictures because I was saying how beautiful Johnstown would probably be in the fall. Sent me some pictures, and he was right. It was absolutely beautiful. Um, but yeah, we're here today to talk about Bump in the Night Society, or more specifically, your involvement with the Johnstown Masonic Event Center as the owner of the Bump in the Night Society. Before we go any
Mm.
further, though, what is, and I'll leave some links in the description, but what is the Bump in the Night Society?
We're a paranormal investigation team from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Some of us are, from the suburbs and that. I'm actually not currently living in Pittsburgh, but I will be. I'm moving back in Pittsburgh a little bit. We investigate pretty much Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, New York, Indiana, pretty much anything that's kind of in our area. Um, we have went further than that before, but that's basically the area we stick to.
When was Bump in the Night Society founded?
2020 we were founded. I was in another group before that called Celestial Bodies Paraseekers, and then I was doing stuff on my own before that. But yeah, 2020 was when Bump in the Night Society was founded.
And since 2020, how many times, or was this the first, right? How many times has Bump in the Night Society, or even in your kind of past experiences on your own or with other groups, did you investigate Masonic buildings or Masonic temples?
I've only the two times at the Johnstown one. We did the private investigation originally, and then we did the one for the convention with the vendors and that.
So, what was it like for you when you got when the Johnstown Masonic Center Event Center reached out to you? Did you have any thoughts about investigating a Masonic building, especially since it was the first time you investigated a Masonic building? Do you have any thoughts around what that might be like, or also, even the town itself? Had you ever done any investigations in Johnstown before? What was that like for you? So both the town in general, but also specifically a Masonic space. What thoughts did you have when you got that request?
Well, originally, I think last year, I'm guessing it was Sean. I'm not sure exactly. Somebody contacted me about doing the expo, but I didn't know who it was. And we had, I think, Hearst Mania or some other engagement going on that weekend, so we couldn't do it. So then they put something out about wanting a paranormal team to come to investigate. So I contacted them. They contacted me back. We set everything up. Johnstown I've known about for a long time because I mean just from being from Pittsburgh, Johnstown's not that far from. I mean, I don't know, an hour and a half or something maybe from Pittsburgh. It's not super far, but I've known the history of Johnstown and the big flood and everything and all the people that it killed and stuff like that. So I've kind of knew the history about it. But that was my first experience with the temple.
And so, did you have any reference at all as to, when you hear a Masonic temple or Freemasonry or Masonry or Mason or these kind of terms, did you have any references as to that? Or did you do any research on it before you did the investigation? What was kind of what was your knowledge base before you did the expo and the investigations? And also, did you find in the process of doing the investigations, you kind of grew in knowledge regarding the Freemasonry and the building itself?
Yeah, I didn't really know a whole lot about it from the beginning. I mean, I've known a couple people that were Masons over the years, but nobody that I was like super close with. I definitely have gained a lot more information into the guys and becoming friends with the guys and Brennan and everybody else stuff like that. Uh, I'm actually probably going to end up joining the Masons at some point. I've been talking to them about it.
Talking to the guys in Johnstown or in your neck of the woods? Because Pittsburgh, right? Or you said you're going back to Pittsburgh. Um,
Yeah,
which
I'm talking to the guys in Johnstown.
they're a cool group of guys. I like them a lot. So
Yeah.
I only met them through this kind of process, but they seem like really good people. So I'm sure it'd be a great location to join. Uh, what is the investigation process like? And I've talked to other paranormal investigators about this. If you get a phone call to investigate wherever it might, like let's say it's just I call you to investigate my house, for example. What is the investigation process like before you actually get to the house? Are you investigating the building? Are you taking, recording the stories that I may have or others may have from the building? Are you investigating the land that the house or building sits on? Like, what is the actual, I wouldn't even call it the investigation process, the preparation process and the research process before you actually engage in the investigation?
I mean, it would vary if it's a residential case or a commercial case. A residential case is definitely different than doing some commercial property that's known. Residential, you pretty much got to screen everybody, make sure that they're uh, of right mind, I guess you could say, because sometimes you get some people that think everything's a paranormal and it's not. So I guess, like I said, with a residential case, you go through an interview process first. Um, you'd have to see the size of the location because I mean our team is technically pretty big just to do a house case. So usually, if we do a house case, it's only like two or three of us. Um, but the commercial case, that we could bring the whole team on. That's not a problem, and um, usually you have some type of waiver or something that people have to sign because if we're coming in your house, we want to make sure that we're covered. Same with as if we're filming, we have to have a waiver if we're going to film, or if we're doing a public investigation, it's the same type of thing. If it's like private and we're paying a building to come there, then we have all the stuff we have to jump through with them. But usually with the commercial properties, they have that already sorted out.
And then what is the preparation like from um the audio visual side, like the actual filming of things and then YouTube? And because we'll leave a link where you posted the trailer for your um regarding your investigation into Johnstown. Let
Yeah.
me know what that is like in terms of the actual investigations on that side of it. We had talked about the difference between how you prepare for an investigation or the research you do when it's a private versus like a residence versus an event space such as Johnstown. And then we're talking about the audio visual side of it, right? Like you've been
Yeah.
posting your trailer for your investigation bump at the Johnstown Expo. What is the preparation like on that side of it? Like when you look at a space, are you thinking about the possibilities as it relates to recording and where you'll set up recording? And also, are you thinking about how things will work when it comes to actually, you know, later on posting it on social media? Um, what's the kind of the give and take there in terms of preparing for an event or an investigation?
It depends on who's all with us. We have two camera guys. So as long as they're able to make the, event or whatever, we use our camera guys. Otherwise, if Mikey's with us, he sets up his own personal cameras. We also do a lot of lives. The lives are usually just like me or somebody else just using our phone. And we have to look into, what reception's like. Like you usually can't go live from a basement or whatever. And like I said, we have two camera guys. One camera guy, he'll do usually our Facebook lives, which is Ryan, which you met Ryan. The other camera guy is Randall. He does a lot of more of our documentary stuff. He's the one that pretty much filmed the stuff that's going to be coming out about the temple, and he does all our editing too.
Why did you and at what point did you decide to start not only recording your investigations, but recording them and then actually posting them on social media? And what was the initial thought behind that?
I guess it's just, to have proof, evidence. I'm pretty sure we've been recording, even in the old group, we were always recording. We have a lot of stuff we never released. Like I have actually before I started talking to you, I was on the computer and I was going through my Dropbox trying to. I have like 900 gigabytes worth of files on the computer from the Dropbox just from investigations. So I was trying to like condense some of that and just put it all online because it's slowing my computer down. But yeah, like I said, we pretty much record everything usually, unless if it's a residential and somebody doesn't want us recording, or if we have a private, like we're supposed to have something private coming up, they don't want it recorded, so obviously we won't record.
But I mean, I guess more for me, the question is more because this is something I kind of find interesting on Freemasonry to kind of go off on that side of it. Like there's the things you record, but then there's the things that you try to put out for public consumption on YouTube or whatever it is, right? Like you kind of
Mhm.
touched on that a little bit, right? You have a lot of things um, that don't get published or don't get released. The actual like, at what point did you decide you'd switch from recording for evidentiary purposes or just to have the record for your team? And I'm assuming the other benefit of that is if you probably experience similar things in different locations. So if you record your paranormal encounter in location A, there may be some valuable information in that recording that could help you in with investigation at location B. But to actually then decide to try to create like a public facing aspect of Bump of the Night Society, and when did that start? And the idea of we're going to share some of this with the public, and what was the response been like from that side of it?
Well, we've always filmed kind of live. Um, we didn't get well, we had different camera people here and there. We had a guy a few years ago who actually kind of did us dirty. He took our footage. I still haven't seen his footage to this day. It was when we were at West Virginia State Penitentiary. He took all our footage. Never seen it. Um, so we tried bringing a camera guy in back then. Otherwise, like I said, it was lives and just ourselves, like me or Mikey, just setting up cameras, stuff like that. But we got more like our camera guys are both professional. Like the one works for WQED, which is a station in Pittsburgh, and the other guy used to work for WTAE, and he still records stuff too. So they're both like professional cameramen. Um, we didn't get professional cameramen until probably like a year or so ago, I'd say. So I guess that's kind of when we started transitioning. We wanted to start putting more professional looking stuff out on YouTube. We did release one of our films actually in a theater in Pittsburgh. Obviously, the Mason one we're going to release. I think we're supposed to show it at the Temple and maybe possibly a theater in Pittsburgh too. But like going forward, we're trying to, be a little bit more professional and just not have it look like a homemade video, because that's obviously our first stuff just looked like homemade videos and like, YouTube videos. And now we're trying to transition more to like what you'd see on TV.
Do you think that is kind of what would you say is the purpose behind that transition? Is it just so maybe more people might be interested in contacting Bump Night Society about investigations? Is it more just trying to make the paranormal seem less paranormal, right? And more people more comfortable talking about it, and kind of. Although I suppose nowadays it feels as though it's pretty mainstream, right? The actual paranormal in terms of
Yeah. I'd say that.
it's kind of is it just a matter of even just to compete in that YouTube space, you feel like you need to have the more professional camera people?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely more professional. I think it's going to get more eyes on stuff. I mean, there's definitely a demographic for, more raw and gritty stuff. But I don't know. I think with, the more professional looks, the more eyes you're going to get on it.
So let's switch over for a second and kind of where we first met. Johnstown. We talked about like your initial thoughts when you were approached by Johnstown, and and your initial thoughts around the word Masonic. Tell me about your actual experiences at the Johnstown Masonic Temple. Um, you know, Even before the actual expo, which we've discussed, you did an investigation there. So tell me what that was like, and just some of the things that you recall from it. If there's anything that you don't want to talk about because it's going to, for example, come out in your movie and you don't want to, spoil anything, that's cool as
Yeah.
well. But just general ideas about like what stood out for you, what the experience was like for you in Johnstown.
Um, Evidence wise, we had some interesting things, mostly audio. Like I said, we did an evidence reveal with the Masons. We showed a lot of the audio that we got to them. That obviously hasn't been released to the public yet. We did actually, the night you were there. I don't know if you saw the video or not. My one friend Bree, who was with us, I don't know if you remember her. She was in the one temple to the right, um, and she was in there by herself, and she caught like the door moving. Like you see her circling around. In the first frame, when she circles around, the door I think was closed, and then when she goes back around, the door's wide open, and she's the only one that was in there. So that was kind of cool.
More in general, though, what were your experiences like? What did you think? Because you had said you'd never been in a Masonic building before, period. So, just first walking into the Johnstown Masonic Temple or Johnstown Masonic Event Center, what did you think about the space, the building? What were your initial thoughts about the rooms, right? The lodge rooms. You mentioned you called it the temple, right? The lodge rooms. Just what were your initial thoughts and feelings as to the building itself? And did you have any sense of excitement about not just a paranormal investigation, but your first paranormal investigation in a Masonic building, right? What were your thoughts and impressions just of the space?
I mean, it was a lot bigger than I expected. For one, very detailed, intricate. Um, I don't know what the rooms are actually called, but I call the one room the Egyptian room, the other room the Harry Potter room because it reminds me of Harry Potter. But yeah, like all
I
the
can see that.
woodwork and
Yeah.
everything and the thrones and like everything is really, really cool looking. It was pretty astounding, I guess, a lot more than I expected.
Do you think your team felt the same way?
Yeah, for sure. I know as soon as like we walked in the room, like people were like, "Wow!" Like didn't expect it to be that fancy, I guess.
And how long did your initial investigation last?
Uh, I know we got there during the day because I think we filmed some daylight stuff, and we were there till 4 or 5 in the morning. So probably, I mean, we got dinner and everything too, ordered pizza. So we weren't investigating the whole time, but we were probably there. I'd say probably like 10 hours at least.
And how did the investigation, like the logistics of it? I know, for example, when we did our paranormal investigations here at the Windsor Masonic Temple, right? We kind of I was there for both of them. We've done two with Canadian Paranormal Trackers, and we um kind of had a like a home base, and on the top floor, which was the kitchenette area where we had food and snacks and lots of coffee. And then
Mm.
it was a 5-person team the first time, a 3-person team the second time. So we'd go down to like one area, investigate that area for a couple hours, then or an hour, so then go back upstairs, then another space. We all kind of stayed together throughout the whole investigation. What was the bump in the night investigation like? Did you all stay together? Did you go to different areas? Especially talking about that first one, um, because I know in the second one with the public involved is a little bit different. But for that first one, were you split up? Were you together? What was the actual logistics of the investigation like?
We were pretty much together. Like we had our home base downstairs where the mountain monsters were. That was where our home base was, where we had our equipment and our food and stuff like that. Then we took a tour of the building, filmed a little bit, some of the history. Um, and then we pretty much were in a big group for the most part. Uh, I think some of the guys got a little bit bored, so some of them, went off and just hung out for a bit, and then, while the rest of us were still investigating. In some rooms, obviously, like the museum, that room's not very big, so we couldn't put everybody in that room at the same time. Um, but obviously, like the temple rooms, we could all fit in there, so like we were in there at once.
And was there anything um like as you were going through the investigation, um did you always plan to return for a second investigation during the expo, or was there anything that happened during that first investigation that made you decide that you wanted to do that second investigation during the expo?
That was kind of just put on the fly. Like when we went to go do the evidence reveal, we were like, oh, maybe we could do an investigation while we're here for the expo too. So it was only technically open to the vendors. But we are kind of having talks about doing more public stuff where we'd actually let people come in. I just think Sean has to get everything okayed about that first.
So what then was your experience like at the actual expo itself, right? Because you guys had your table set up. So you do your
Mm.
investigation, you do your evidentiary review, and that leads you into. So I understand it was always your plan to be part of the expo as well as do that first investigation. So what was your experience like at the expo, both in terms of hanging out with the other vendors, but also the public, right? And even your experiences with the Masons who came by. Um, what was your experience like there?
Well, originally we weren't booked for the expo. Like we had the investigation. I think when we actually went and did the private is when we talked about like, would you guys want us to come out and speak or something. So then that's when we talked to Leah and then we got put on. The expo itself, like, I mean, we do a lot of expos and conventions and everything. See a lot of the same people. Like I know like Jeff, like the Ouija board guy and stuff like that. And a lot of the vendors, I've know personally because I've seen them throughout the years, speakers and everything else. Um, but I mean, yeah, we got to meet a lot of the Masons. I knew, some of them, got to meet some more. And even for the investigation we did at night, more people came out and got to hang out, like I said, with some of the vendors and with some of the Masons. And I don't know, it was a pretty cool experience.
And what was it like from the public side of it, right? The people at your table. I'm assuming, right, they're going there for that specific reason to check out a paranormal investigation. So my assumption is most of them are going to be kind of primed, if that's the right word, for to discuss these things. But you have a lot of people sitting by your table talking to you about it. What was that like?
I mean, that's always cool. It's always fun. Like I said, we do a lot of conventions and that, so we always talk to a lot of people. Hang out with everybody. We usually get some of the same people that, like we were at Madison Seminary the week before or 2 weeks before, I forget, MadCon. Some of the people at MadCon came out and, saw us at the Johnstown one too.
And the actual, like the second investigation that you guys did, what was that like? And how different was it to do an investigation where you're actually inviting people who aren't on your team, right? Vendors, um, kind of civilians, if you want to use that term. What was it like having them as part of the investigation? And how does that even change your investigation? Or does it change?
When we do public stuff, it's definitely more, I don't want to say it's like in a derogatory way, but it's probably less professional. Just because like people will start talking or people will just be wandering around, stuff like that. So it's not the same as if we would do it privately, because privately, like, we all know what we're supposed to be doing and what we're not supposed to be doing. Like say if you're trying to record an EVP, and you got people talking in the background, like that's not really going to work. That's why with a lot of publics, uh it's hard to do stuff, even recording in general, because if you have, what, there was like 20 of us, I think. um if you got, five people over here and five people over there or in a different room and they're walking around and talking, you think you hear something, it's probably just them. Especially we've had publics at some locations that are just houses, and if you have five people upstairs and five people downstairs, you hear everybody walking around, talking and everything, and it contaminates a lot of your evidence, compared to a private.
Is it a matter of kind of or having the public, is it just a or civilians, is it just a trade-off between the benefits Bump in the Night Society gets, or I guess what are the trade-offs between like the benefits that Bump in the Night Society is going to get from possible referrals or people kind of the public relations side of it versus, again, as you discussed, right, contamination of evidence, or the challenges of gathering evidence when you have more people, right? Is there kind of a trade-off that you're experiencing between the two things, and how do you balance that?
I would say publics are probably more for fun than professionalism. Like obviously we go into it knowing, that it's not going to be what it would be for a private. Even just when groups in general are like large, it's hard, um, to like get good evidence because, like I said, people talk, people shuffle, people cough, people sniff. You hear every little sound if you're using recorders and stuff like that. Pros and cons, I guess, like with a public, like I said, it's more fun. Just get to hang out, BS a little bit, stuff like that. And like I said, with a private, it's more professional.
What do you think, or maybe it's always been this way and I just didn't really pay attention to it before, but it feels as though the paranormal is getting more interest. Certainly it feels as though Masonic buildings are far more interested in engaging with paranormal researchers or having ghost tours of their buildings or anything to that nature, right? What do you attribute kind of, or well, first, even in just, we'll start with your own experiences. You started Bump of the Night Society in 2020. You did stuff privately with other groups before that. Have you personally seen an increase in people interested in the paranormal and in investigations and paranormal investigations of their buildings or their homes? Have you seen an increase in that, um, or has it just
Um,
been kind of steady?
I would think with public stuff, definitely an increase. You see a lot of groups doing publics now. It didn't used to be that way as much. And even with, there's a lot of YouTubers that put stuff out. Because originally it was basically what you saw on TV is what you got. And then especially with TikTok, because TikTok people get bored easily. So TikToks are like, a minute video or something. So there's definitely a lot more content, I'd say, through TikTok too.
What are your thoughts as to kind of the reasons for that? Why do you think there is more interest from the public in paranormal investigations?
Um, Part of it's probably just the growth in social media in general. It's a lot more accessible. Technology is more advanced than it was 10 years ago. And I still think, like, I always compare it to, like, I don't know if you remember the video game Pong, like with just the little paddles and a little ball. It was really, I think we're still in the Pong phase when it comes to technology. I think we have a long way to go, and there's going to be a lot cooler technology that comes out that's going to prove the paranormal is real.
For the building side of it, to what
Mhm.
extent do you think it is buildings or building administration, right? Looking at a possible, like the public relations, the promotional, even the financial side of it, right? Like, um, I don't mean I don't mean this in like a negative way, but like the mercenary type, the idea of like getting involved in having ghost tours and Halloween events and getting people through the doors, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know what the numbers were at Johnstown, but just from what I saw, I mean, I feel like they must have got over 100 visitors over the 2 days easily,
Oh
which
yeah, I'm
is
sure.
all people who get to see the building and even if they have no real interest in the paranormal, just go for fun. They now know that building is a space that they could use for a wedding or whatever it is, right? Or they can do ghost tours or haunted events, or haunted Masonic temples, which are quite popular in certain locations.
Yeah.
So, do you think that a lot of buildings are looking at possible financial or public relation upsides to having investigations and kind of a paranormal aspect to the building?
Yeah, I think a lot of properties are, and I mean, I think they should. I mean, if it's if it's available and if it makes sense for everybody, like it's a good way to raise money, and it's a good way to teach the history about the buildings.
And switching topics a little bit, I am really interested in your team in the sense of like how do people and you could talk personally yourself or just in general, like how do people become interested in the paranormal and actually being part of an investigative team? Do you find a lot of people have certain backgrounds in certain things, or do you kind of gather people from all different walks of life? Is it like a Masonic lodge in which you have people coming from all different backgrounds and jobs and histories, just with that common interest of the paranormal?
Usually, I'd say 9 times out of 10, uh, you had something happen to you when you were younger. You experienced something. I mean, there is some I mean, I'm even very skeptical, but I did have stuff happen to me. Everybody on my team, I'm pretty sure, has had something happen to them over the years. That makes them uh, believe in the paranormal. joining a team in that can be a little bit more difficult depending on where you're at. I mean, being in Pittsburgh isn't too bad because we're a bigger city, but if you were somewhere rural, it'd probably be a little bit harder to find somebody. And it's definitely a mix of people. We're all weirdos though, for sure. uh, but
Sounds like
I don't know.
Masons.
Yeah. But I mean, you got some people who are like spiritual and some people that, don't believe in anything. Um, and then you got other people, that are on the occult side. Like you have everything throughout the paranormal. Some people are witches and psychics and mediums, and um, a lot of people are obviously interested in like horror and stuff like that too.
I mean, I'm definitely interested in horror. That's my favorite film genre, as I've talked about a bunch of times on this channel on a separate topic. So yeah, I love scary movies. I think you had like Nightmare on Elm Street stickers on your table, if I recall
Well, I have I
correctly.
have right on my arm here. I got Freddy, Michael Myers, Leatherface, and Jason. And I got Sam from Trick or Treat tattooed up here. I got Beetlejuice down here. I have a bunch of horror tattoos. So.
Which is your favorite? Who takes it from those? I guess you could include Sam if you want to, but from those four, who do you pick?
um, I mean, Freddy out of the slashers is definitely my favorite. Beetlejuice is definitely a favorite of mine though, because like that was back like when VHS was around. That was one of the first VH tapes I had, so it's definitely special to me too. But out of slashers, definitely Freddy, just because like he's funny and stuff, and I like humor too. So
I saw a post on social media. I don't know if this is true or not because it's social media, but apparently when they release Alien Romulus, they're going to release it on VHS tape as well as like the other formats.
that's
Which
pretty cool.
I don't even know where to find a VCR to play
It's,
the thing. I feel like that's got to be a collector's thing at this point, having a VCR.
you could probably go to like Goodwill or one of them like thrift stores or something like that to get one. But I actually have
Probably.
like I have a VCR DVD player right in front of me at my camp.
I remember the 5 minutes. It feels like it was 5 minutes at a time when they were combining. They were selling combination VHS and DVD players where you could like put a VHS tape in or you put a DVD player in. I remember thinking that was like we've made it. Technology will never get any better than this. Like
Yeah.
what more could we ask for, right? Um
Mhm.
no, I agree with you though. I gotta go with Freddy Krueger as my favorite. My favorite movies of all time. Not just horror, not just nightmare movies. My favorite movies, period, is Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5. So,
Okay.
uh, do you have what's your
Yeah.
favorite of the other? So
Of
Beetlejuice,
the
we'll put
nightmare.
that as your favorite, but your favorite nightmare movie, which one do you go with?
Um, I mean, I like the first one a lot. Obviously, Dream Warriors is good. I didn't like New Nightmare at all. I think that's the worst one. I like Freddy vs. Jason. I know that one kind of takes some flack, but because it's kind of cheesy. But I don't know. Freddy vs. Jason's definitely up there. Other like horror movies, 13 Ghosts I've always liked. I liked Village of the Damned, People Under the Stairs. Like those are some probably my favorite horror movies, I'd say.
I feel like 13 Ghosts is experiencing like a weird renaissance. Like I enjoyed that movie a lot. I liked it when it came out. I forget when it was, like 2000 and something, 2001, too.
Something
I
like
for,
that, yeah, early 2000s, I think.
and then like it was fine. I liked it. And then it kind of just went away. But it seems like in the last 2 years, I keep seeing all these posts about 13 Ghosts as being like some type of seminal horror movie for people. Or like,
Mhm.
I remember seeing like I don't know if they started a petition, but they were starting a thing where they wanted Netflix to make a series of
About the
like,
origin stories.
yeah, each
Yeah, I've
each
heard it
ghost,
too.
each of the 13 ghosts gets its own like, which is a great idea. But that's
I
one of those
agree.
movies that I feel like was under the radar and then just all of a sudden came back.
Well, I've always liked like makeup and special effects. Like I don't know if you know who Tom Savini is. He's from Pittsburgh. He
I
did
know Tom
like
Savini.
Friday the 13th and Creep Show and all that stuff. So I actually, when I was teenager, early 20s, he has a school, the Douglas Education Center, where he taught classes and stuff for makeup and special effects. I actually looked into it. And I worked for a haunted house, like a haunted house attraction, a Halloween attraction for 7 years. So I've always been like interested in that type of stuff. Um, but yeah, just I mean, the thing with 13 Ghosts is I always thought like the monsters were super cool in it. Like the ghosts were like scary and creepy looking and very creative. So I think that's part of the reason I like that movie. And I'm obviously talking about the remake because there is an original that was like, I don't know if you ever seen it, it was black and white and completely different movie than the remake.
Well, it was,
But
if I recall correctly, that was one of those old, like, I think it was called the Hammer films. I forget what they were called, but it was a thing where, um, everything was, like, gimmicked in different ways, right? So I think with
yeah,
13 Ghosts, the original, they gimmicked it so you got special glasses when you went in, and if you put on the
yeah,
glasses, you could see certain things in the movie. I remember there's another one called The Tingler where, like, certain theater seats, they put, like, a vibrating whatever it was, a gizmo underneath the seat, so every now and then the theater would press a button and your seat would start to, like, vibrate while you're watching this movie. That so, yeah, I think the original 13 Ghosts was more of the gimmick, was selling it. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, so I feel like 13 Ghosts, I feel like it's coming back in a weird way as is well, as I think for a lot of people, that was their, like, initial kind of, entryway into horror was kind of 13 Ghosts. It seems that way, and now there's a lot of nostalgia around that movie. You weren't a fan of New Nightmare, huh?
No, no, not like New Nightmare at all.
Well, so because that, so because one of the great debates. So
I
my,
didn't like
like
the
I said, my
remake
favorite.
of Nightmare on Elm Street.
You didn't like? Sorry.
I said I didn't like the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street either. The one with Freddie, or what the heck was that guy's name? No, not Robert Englund. The other guy that played
Yeah.
Freddie in the remake. I didn't like that one.
See, it's funny because so my philosophy's always been like I like them all, right? And I'll always find something to like about each of them. So every single one of those movies I like. Even I shouldn't say even. I also like the remake for kind of some of the things it goes for. I love the opening of the remake. I think it's the best opening in any nightmare film with the diner and the rain. It sets the tone of like the place you're at, right? But see, I always thought it was interesting with New Nightmare, or sorry, yeah, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, because that movie, there's a big debate amongst some people as to how, like, who is the greatest final girl or final character to take on Freddy Krueger, or the most successful, right? Because you could argue it was Lisa Wilcox's character, Alice Johnson, because she took
Mm,
on Freddy Krueger twice, and at the end of the second movie, she's still alive. So she was the only one you could say who took on Freddy Krueger two times in one, unless you count
yeah.
Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And when Heather Langenkamp turns into her movie character Nancy at the end of it, does that mean Nancy, defeated Freddy three times? I don't know. I always thought that was an interesting splitting of hairs debate.
See, I mean, I remember when I saw New Nightmare, um, I like went out, bought surround sound. Never had surround sound in my life. Was so excited to hook up the surround sound, watch New Nightmare, and like I don't know, maybe just disappointed me. Like I felt let down.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting for what it was. On my list, I give four and five are at the top, then three, then one, then I don't want to go through the list. But the point is, I like them all in different ways. But I think they all are kind of cool. Same thing with the Halloween. Same thing with the Friday the 13th.
Yeah, yeah.
Even some of the ones that have like half their stuff is straight to video. I find ways to enjoy all those movies. Like I enjoy all the Hellraisers for different reasons.
But yeah, I've only seen the first Hellraiser, and I didn't. Well, actually, no. I might have some of the more recent ones too. But I wasn't. I'm not a fan of the Hellraiser really. It's much for me. Which I mean, I like gore and stuff. Obviously, I love the Saw movies. I thought all the Saw movies were good. I mean, Terrifier. Fire super gory. The Terrifier. I haven't seen the third one yet, but I like the other.
I mean, for me, I'm going to be. I think honestly, the first Hellraisers was the weakest. I've always thought. Um, there were some great
Mm,
straight to video Hellraisers that came out like from 1995 to like whatever it was 2008 or 9, where they almost became. And I guess if you're a fan of the original Hellraiser, you might not like them because they really kind of adopted like just a slasher kind of aesthetic. Like
Maybe I'll have to check
Hellworld,
them out. So
especially.
I only seen the first one, but I'd have to. Have you ever seen any of the Hatchet movies? Those are good movies.
Yeah, I like the Hatchet movies. Yeah, I remember they came out at a
Yeah,
time
those
when they
are
were kind of. It was Scream, but less ironic, right? Less self-aware. Because it was the same basic idea. They were making fun of and deconstructing the horror genre, but
yeah.
and with like I kind of Scream was so self-referential, and constantly taking the piss. I think Hatchet was more straightforward in that
Yeah,
sense.
Hatchet. I
But I
mean,
like
there's
that.
so many cameos in it too.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, what Kane Hodder's in there as like the dad or whatever it was. I think Robert Englund was in there. I
Yeah,
the
Candyman's in
the
there.
yeah,
Or
Tony Todd,
Needs Butter, I mean.
Mercedes
Yeah.
McNabb from Buffy.
I've met
But yeah, I would
Kane
say.
Hodder and I've met Tony Todd before.
Well, I'm guessing with all your conventions, right, that you've had some where you've actually got to meet some of the
Yeah.
stars.
The one they were at Steel City Con, which is a big like comic book / movie and I met both of them at two different occasions. Like a Kane Hodder and Tony Todd, and I had that tattoo where I have the on my arm. And Freddie's bigger than everybody else. He was like joking to me about it, like, "Oh, I see Freddie's bigger than me." But the thing is, like Kane
Hard to
Hodder,
say.
like they claim that Kane Hodder's I think like 6'3" or something. But I'm like 6'2", and I was standing next to him. I'm taller than him, so I don't know.
He's. I'm trying to think when I met him. I mean, he seemed like a semi big dude, but I wouldn't say he was huge. Friendly
Yeah,
guy, very very friendly.
yeah.
Um,
Tony Todd's like 6'5". He was bigger than me.
he's tall. Tony Todd. I
Yeah,
remember meeting him a couple of times. He did a great job. I mean, Candyman. It's
yeah,
interesting. Again, so many of these movies, it's like there's the original, it's in theaters, and then you have your sequels, and a lot of people argue the sequels it's like diminishing returns. I never felt that way. I like a lot of these sequels that I feel like get
yeah,
slept on or overlooked. Um, even like the I Know You Did Last Summer series, they had a sequel that went straight to video in I think it was 2010. I forget when it was. I'll always know you did last summer, which I thought was a great movie. It was a perfectly
yeah.
serviceable, just by the numbers horror flick, which is perfectly fine. I'm not looking for every movie to like blow my mind, but I liked it. Right? I feel like a lot of these sequels kind of get stepped on, and then they just then eventually when it comes back, they just ignore the sequels that the people weren't a fan of or had low, like Halloween, constantly.
Yeah.
Although I've had for years. And one day I'm going to write this script, even though I have no idea how to write a script at all. I've always had an idea for a Halloween multiverse movie, and I think it'd be awesome. Where you
Okay.
bring in the Halloween, you bring in all the different timelines, whether it be the most recent timeline or that Rob Zombie timeline. You could,
Mm.
and even the Halloween 3 timeline. I'm telling you, it'd be great. I
Sounds
feel
like
like
a
we
cool
also,
idea.
right? It would be a cool
Yeah.
idea. What's your favorite
Mhm.
Halloween movie?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I like the original. Um, I like some of the Rob Zombie ones too, but uh, I kind of like H2O. I know like I kind of gets a bad rap, but I like the H2O. Uh, Seasons of the Witch was a good season or a good movie. Uh, I mean, I usually go with originals when it comes to stuff. So I mean, I'll take the original, I guess.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Halloween, OG is hard to beat. Um,
Yeah, they
but
kind of like set the thing for all slashers, you know?
it did, yeah. No, it set the it's kind of like you could just call that like movie, right? Like it's the perfect slasher movie in terms of like
Mhm.
the kills happen exactly when they should happen. The music is exact, like everything is kind of it's the perfect template. So I really loved the OG. I also loved Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie. I think you mentioned the Rob Zombie ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we also kind of went on a super fun tangent talking about horror movies. Although, I guess going back to Paranormal Investigation and Johnstown, um, I understand you're going to be back next year, I believe, or is you're planning on it? Because I know that they have announced the date for 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been officially asked, but I assume we will be. I mean, I talk to Sean probably once a week. Um, and like I said, we're going to do the movie there. So hopefully, we're trying to get it done before the end of the year. I don't know if it's going to be possible or not. And then we're in the process of making it like we have a theme song or whatever, for all our videos. Um, I used to do music. I used to rap. And Randall, who's my one camera guy, he's currently in a metal band. He's the lead singer of a metal band. So we're actually in the process right now of making a new song for all our stuff, and hopefully we could get it done before this comes out, because we're gonna shoot like a regular 3-minute video or something, a music video and everything, but we want to make like a little 30-second intro for all our stuff coming out, too. So hopefully we can get that done in time before it comes out.
And what has the response been like so far for you in terms of um the movie? Like, are you getting a lot of interest? Are you thinking of taking it to other Masonic temples potentially, or film festivals? We talked about conventions, right? There's usually a space I find in conventions for people to submit their original their films. So, what's the
Yeah.
response been like to what you put up on YouTube and from the Masons, and also what are your plans for the film in future after the initial screenings?
Well, I know one of the things we've talked about is going to different temples. Like, we'd like to come to yours. The Detroit one was another one we'd like to go to. Our one friend, she owns a Masonic lodge, or a former lodge. She is, I think she's in Indiana. I forget what her name is, but she messaged me too. So we kind of want to do like a little tour of the different places, and possibly show the movie there, or investigate there, put stuff out on these different places. Even where I work, I'm working there still currently, but I start a new job next week. But where I'm working right now is in Newcastle, which is up where I'm living, and there's a lodge or temple in Newcastle. So we're going to try talking to the people up there. Sean gave us the information for that too, about possibly investigating up there. And like I said, I'd like to make it a little series, maybe 5 different videos or something on the different temples throughout the United States, and hopefully it picks up, and maybe we can do more across the states. It'd be really cool.
Would the plan be to release the series on YouTube, or like?
Yeah, I mean, it would probably. I mean, we're gonna see how this first one goes. Hopefully, everything goes good. I would try to shop at maybe some other places like Amazon, or Tubi or something like that. We'll just have to see how, I guess, successful it is.
You guys are spoiled rotten in the States with Tubi, by the way. Not that I like Tubi in Canada too. Tubi is great. But whenever I cross over to the States, it's like you get so much more stuff on Tubi. And you got Buffy the Vampire Slayer on Tubi right now. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy the good shit that you got on Tubi down there. Or
Yeah,
up
yeah.
there from Windsor. Tubi, I love you in Canada, but give us more of that American content, please. But I think, and it's amazing. Tubi's free, and it's like got the best scary movies on though, compared to
Mhm.
almost every other streaming service.
Yeah.
Well, I had an absolutely great time in Johnstown, and there's lots of different reasons for that. Sean is a huge part of that, and the temple itself. But a big part of that was being lucky enough to take part in the paranormal investigation, and meet your team. And it's great to see kind of the support that we're starting to see. A lot of paranormal, I don't know what the word is, the paranormal universe, world professionals are giving to Masonic temples now. A lot of Masonic temples, and vice versa, Masonic temples opening their doors to the paranormal and to investigators.
Yeah.
So thank you for letting me take part, and thank you for just being part of the 2024 Paranormal Expo and being part of the Johnstown Masonic Temple experience.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right. Hopefully, I'll see you guys soon. And yeah, maybe we can get you guys down here or up here. I always
Yeah.
forget because Windsor's so far. Maybe we can get you guys here to Windsor, but certainly Detroit, if you get the chance, to check it out because it's an amazing building. And you might not even find ghosts. You might just find some dude who's been there since 1973 but got lost because it's so big and there's so many spaces in it.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.